This video is a product of a body of work that started in the fall of 2022 but has its origins back in 2014. People are understandably curious about why I felt compelled to do this, and maybe I will share the story, but none of this background impacts the truth of what I have captured. The footage speaks for itself. The intent is to show you the curious things that I captured and provide explanations when possible. I also hope that this inspires you to see the night sky in a different way, like this video sequence, which looks like a sunrise but is actually a moonrise at night. We can see things that are usually hidden if we just choose to look. Although I believe there's still much of the world we don't understand, I feel that I've been able to approach this project with my feet solidly on the ground and not be attached to any specific outcome. I have seen attachment to outcomes undermine people on both sides of a mystery. A scientist can be just as guilty of this as people seeking answers to a strange experience. Thomas Kuhn, a noted historian and philosopher of science, made a career of challenging scientists to be open to paradigm shifts that periodically ruffle and change current scientific understanding. He said, "In science, novelty emerges only with difficulty, manifested by resistance against a background provided by expectation." Daniel Boorstin was more direct when he stated, "The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge." Questioning the assumptions of the world around us should not require bravery, but sometimes it does. It also requires integrity to accept the truth in the form of a scientific explanation. I think it feels pretty good to solve a mystery, and there is no truth that can make this world less amazing. So, why did I start filming? Basically, it was because of sheer curiosity and wonder. I had a close-up mysterious incident that I witnessed in 2014 that left me very suspicious about how much we actually knew about our natural world. The trigger event was a sighting I witnessed with a friend. That was 2022. After that, I started filming the night sky every clear night. Originally, my goal was to film for an entire year and share all the notable things I captured. What I didn't know was how addictive this work would become and exactly how much happens in the night sky that most of us never see. Once I started filming, the idea of stopping became almost unthinkable. Before this, I had been filming my wanders and bushwhacking in the woods for years, and I had found lots of amazing things while doing so. But when I started filming at night, I faced an enormous learning curve. I needed to learn how to film the night sky. I also needed to learn how to edit and interpret footage. I wanted to find a community of people who had similar goals and interests, and who would be willing to advise me and exchange information in confidence. Almost immediately, I started to call this endeavor Project Up. The community I connected to over time became critical. So many people have helped me over the years by providing advice, reviewing footage, and helping me demystify captures. They also provided an honest, confidential space to discuss theories and celebrate discoveries. I want to thank all of you who helped and continue to help me. You know who you are. I dedicate this to all of you. This is Project Up. It's hard to look back on the earliest clips that I filmed. I was using a GoPro 8, the night lapse mode, which works great, but you need to adjust the exposure, the ISO, and other settings, which at the time I knew nothing about. This was one of the first videos where I could actually see stars, so I was pretty proud of myself. It wasn't long before I bought a GoPro 10 because once I knew how to film, I wanted to cover more of the sky. But I still had to learn how to look at things. I had to learn how to identify airplanes versus satellites. I then bought a Lumix camera, which meant I had to learn how to set that camera up because they're all different. Of course, I had to buy a wide-angle lens for this camera in order to shoot at night. Eventually, I bought a third GoPro and another Lumix off eBay, which I then converted into a full-spectrum camera in case I was missing something that was happening in the other part of the light spectrum that humans can't see. I also had to learn how to use the video editing software and compile my videos in order to capture things. And I did capture things, odd things, that I couldn't identify. They would appear in one frame of the night lapse, and when you zoomed in, you would see this. I won't lie, I had no idea what these lights were. I didn't even know what to call them. I called them squiggles, I called them worms. I just had no idea what they were. And so I did what anyone, I think, would do, reach out to someone a lot smarter. And I will call him Mr. Curious. He was a great help to me. He took everything I was telling him seriously, and it was clear he was skeptical that it was anything but explainable, but I don't think that's the wrong approach. Why wouldn't you look for an explanation, a known explanation? Of course you would. And I thought it was really interesting. One of the things he said right up front is, I will help you as long as you are really interested in finding the answer. And I was really confused by that because, of course, I was interested in finding the answer. But later, I really began to understand his perspective on this. But it wasn't long for this incredibly smart, incredibly busy man to reach back to me with an idea and, best of all, an experiment. And I was thrilled. I jumped on it immediately. The theory that Mr. Curious brought to me was that what I was seeing was cosmic rays generated originally from how many millions of years ago, at what distant part of the galaxy or universe, I can't even comprehend. But his theory was these were cosmic rays hitting the lens of the digital camera and wreaking havoc on some pixels within the lens. So the experiment he gave me to do, and he offered two, and I did both of them, was the first one was to put the camera in a heavy, dark plastic bag, turn it on, run my night lapse with it pointed up like I normally would. And if these were cosmic rays, I should, if I'm lucky enough to actually have a cosmic ray hit that very night, I should see some unexplained lighted pixels in otherwise dark footage. The second experiment that he suggested was to have two cameras pointed as close together as possible, pointed in the same direction, started at the same time, just run a regular night lapse in this way, and to see if one of the cameras picked up some strange, these lights, and the other one pointed at the exact same direction, didn't. So that's what I did. For Gamma Ray Experiment 1, where I put the camera in the bag, reviewing the footage, I did find some unexplained lighted pixels. And they weren't as dramatic as some of the ones I had found before, but there's no other explanation for what these could be. But I did find these random lighted pixels, and just like the ones I would catch in the sky, they were really on one shot only. So I considered this experiment a success, and I believe this did prove the gamma ray hypothesis. For gamma ray experiment 2, where I had the two cameras pointed in the same direction, very close to each other, I was also able to find proof in the gamma ray theory. I was able to capture a pretty bright light in one camera and the other camera facing the exact same place and covering the territory where the light appeared. There was no light visible. To me, this was further evidence that the gamma ray theory was correct. And it was enough for me. I consider this solved. Gamma rays aren't the only natural phenomenon to make an appearance in my videos. Fireflies appeared when summer arrived, but they were magical. The following footage was filmed at my friend's house, who I will call M, using 2 GoPros filming in night-lapse mode. The first scene looks like daylight, but it was nighttime, but the film gets increasingly bright as the moon rises. As you review this footage, it is important to remember that each frame is set for a 20-second exposure. The first frame captures the first set of lights. The second frame has no lights. The third frame captures the final light. I showed this footage to Mr. Curious, and I was a bit glib when I did so. I mean, how could he possibly explain this? After examining the footage, he reached out to me. He said that he believed the first lights were actually a meteor traveling downward, and the third frame of lights was actually a different meteor. The combined effect produced an illusion that the lights were traveling upwards through the trees. The reason the lights appeared to be in front of the trees was that the brightness of the meteor could overpower the contrast between the foreground and the sky. The camera sensor can lose the fine detail of the silhouetted branches in the intense brightness, especially in low light conditions. The more I examine the footage, the more I see his point. And this one was a tough one for me. If I was attached to the outcome of any footage, it was this. What do you think? Notice the movement of the stars when compared to the lighted object, and this object was visible approximately 19 minutes of real time. For context, the International Space Station takes 2 to 6 minutes to fly over, depending on its orbital arc and your visible horizon. The ISS can complete its orbit of our planet in 90 minutes. If it's not space junk, I don't know what it is. Mr. Curious saw this footage and guessed that it could be some sort of radiation event. For what it's worth, when I asked AI to analyze this footage, it said it appeared to be a light spiraling downward, pulsating at equal intervals. I have no idea what this is. The Lumix camera and the GoPros aren't the only tools I use for Project Up. I also routinely monitor the footage of our 3 security cameras that are situated around our property. I do this because the 2014 incident was within the tree line, about 10 feet off the ground. I do monitor these cameras nightly, and the Nest security cameras have picked up some unusual things as well. One of the ongoing frustrations with the fast movers is not being able to get a good look at them. As good as the Nest cams are, they just weren't fast enough. So I purchased a little full spectrum camera that's 4K, and my goal was to wait until I had some fast mover activity and then set it out on the bench under the Nest cam to try and just let it run all night to try and get some better photos. I set up the camera and went to bed. When I got up the next morning and was reviewing the Nest camera footage from the night before, to my amazement and delight, I saw things moving past the little full spectrum camera that was sitting on the bench. But things didn't go as planned. When I went to retrieve the footage, I found out that the full spectrum camera had turned off during the night. I had nothing. My next step was to hope for the best and set it up the following night. Good girl. All right. Now, last night, this killed me. The Nest Cam is on the pole on the light back there, right? We're going to walk right up to it. And the Nest Cam's on 24 hours a day. It's a 1080p. I caught the fast ones. I had the Phasm IR camera set up there all night on a battery. Nest Cam caught them flying right in front of this. I went and checked the card to get the footage off the Phasm Cam, but had an SD error. So I have a new SD card in it. Hopefully that'll work. And I have my little stealth camera here, my little GoPro that I'm going to be filming right here, facing this way. So I have 3 cameras on the same spot. This one's on power. So we'll see how we do tonight. I want to start off by reminding you that the GoPro's in night lapse mode, taking 25-second exposures. And that explains the blur for the fast mover that we actually caught. The owl monopolized the footage for the entire night. I did, however, catch some of the best footage I have ever caught, so I'm grateful for that. We catch owls flying on the Nest Cams all the time. They might be blurry, but they have considerable bulk compared to the smaller things. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the fast movers for over a year, so the mystery remains. As midsummer arrived during the first year of filming, I had captured a lot more than I had anticipated. I was gathering quite a repository of unexplained footage, but over time I was beginning to identify many of the mystery clips as explainable phenomenon. I could not only identify satellites as they traveled overhead, but I had apps that could tell me the name of each satellite. I had purchased the premium Flight Radar app, which allowed me to view flights from prior dates, so I could rule out airplanes as culprits. I began to see Project Up as a long game where I could capture and save footage and hopefully identify it at a later date. I was proud about how far I had come, and honestly prouder that I had been able to explain so many of my mystery captures. Mr. Curious had challenged me on whether I truly wanted to find the truth, and I think I proved that I did. It wasn't the best night to film. There were some high clouds to start, and then more clouds were expected to roll in. Later, using the temperature and dew point from our weather station, I could estimate the cloud deck at 900 feet above our current location. It was uneventful, and things were getting socked in, and then this happened. I'm letting the rest of the night play out so you can see as that security light on the right kicks in, we don't see the same anomalies showing up in the sky. Mr. Curious looked at these images, and he felt the objects were below the tree line. There was a Nest Cam mounted on the building directly above the location where the Lumix camera was taking this night lapse. There were no sounds detected, and there was no debris in the wind detected at the time these photos were taken. I'm going to show you the 4 frames that are involved in these anomalies. The first frame is really just as a reference. It shows really nothing. It shows at the very center of the screen 2 reflections that happen whenever that security light come on, but nothing else, and then this appears. I don't know what these are. They're below the cloud deck. They seem to be leaving a trail. There are no aviation lights. In frame 3, you can really see the one to the left, the darker one, really moving up straight. And then there's a mysterious, very sharp curve on one of them. I don't know what could make these. I have no idea what these are. And this is the 4th frame that shows at the end of that 1 minute, there was nothing moving in the sky. What is it? The first thing I did when analyzing this footage was to check the flight radar to see if there were any planes or helicopters in the area, and there wasn't. That whole ridge is undeveloped. That ridge is always black in all of my footage. To start this analysis, I needed to look at the raw Nest Cam footage that included the sunset. On January 15th, 2023, the sun set at 4:42 p.m., where I live, and Venus set at 5:12 p.m. This means Venus remained visible for about 30 minutes after sunset, appearing as a bright evening star low in the western sky. Venus also set in almost the exact same location as the sun on that night. It appeared to be blinking because of the wind and the movement of the trees. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was Venus. It would be difficult to continue at this point without having a conversation about the incident that triggered Project Up. In 2022, I had a friend over my house, and we witnessed something at night while sitting on the patio outside. After the incident, we immediately came in and filmed our discussion about what we had just witnessed. This is the recording of that discussion.
Yeah.
And I almost tripped over a chair trying to come to you because I could see you standing there
in the yard.
Looking up, and I went over to you, and then
I had gone, and then I looked to the southwest.
Yeah.
For that corner of the house, and so I had been looking up, and then I turned to that direction. I saw a bright light where there normally isn't a light. And
it almost looked like a northern star, but it wasn't a star.
Yeah, it was really bright.
Wicked bright.
And it seemed it just looked lower. It wasn't like a star or a planet. It just looked lower. And it was moving, and it was coming towards us. And so I called and came over, and we both saw it. And that's when we were really noticing how it moved. So
I look up, and it was moving like slow, but then it paused, and then it would go slow again, and then pause, and then slow again. It was like this weird
halting movement,
like almost like a glitchy satellite.
Yeah,
that went weird, but didn't have any blinking lights. It was just one,
but it was moving in a halting type movement. And it wasn't consistent. It wasn't weird. Like it would move for like 1.5 seconds and then halt, and then 1.5 seconds and halt. There was no beat to it. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. It was like sometimes it would move and then it would stop, pause, and then it would move again and pause. But anyway, it came our way, and then it turned towards the east. Oh my gosh. And we're both looking at it. So it's coming from the southwest to the northeast. But then it made a turn to due east.
So weird.
And then it made a turn to due east. And then
all of a sudden, it went up. There's, no clouds.
No clouds. Beautiful
in the
night.
Sky. Crystal clear night. It goes up. Disappears.
It disappeared. That's what I saw too. It looked like it went...
It was freaking out
up.
like,
where's it
going? Where's it going? Where's it going? Where's it going? Remember, I kept saying that over and over again.
From my perspective, it looked like it was getting smaller, so it was going straight up.
Yes, because it was.
Yeah, and because it was bright light, and then it started getting fainter and fainter, and then it was gone.
Yeah,
it went straight up.
It wasn't like there was a cloud. It went underneath or behind or in.
Yeah,
it went up and out.
And since that happened, we've seen an airplane go over, and there was noise. This thing was silent.
And we also saw what we believe was a satellite. Just because it was moving so steady and so high up,
And
it was
smooth.
faint and smooth. And so we did see both of those things, and that was after we saw this.
To compare it to everything else,
Yeah.
I think that was amazing to be able to have that.
Yeah, especially the noise of the airplane.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was nothing. This was not a plane. It had no lights. It was moving in a weird way. It took a turn and then it disappeared on a cloudless night.
Like, seriously?
Straight up.
Straight up. Gone.
Yeah.
This brings me to evidence that is the most compelling to me personally. After filming for almost a year, I believe I saw what my friend and I witnessed back in 2022. I witnessed it again and I caught it on film on one night, and I believe I captured it again on film the following night. I had a couple of exciting nights. It was September 15th of 2022 that I had the experience here with a friend that triggered my filming for a year. And on September 1st, I saw the exact same thing. So, for the first time in a year of filming and seeing all sorts of strange things, I finally saw it. I was sitting in front of our garage, right over there, and I looked up, and it was right over there, and I got it on film. The GoPro that actually captured the footage of the object was sitting right in front of the little building on the left, facing towards where I'm filming right now. And it captured the object just in the upper left of the screen. It barely captured the object. Keep in mind, this was captured while taking a night lapse, and I was using 20-second exposures. The light appears on 3 frames, so that means it appeared anywhere between 20 and 60 seconds. It was a while, and it actually just appeared right in front of my eyes. It moved slow. It wasn't a shooting star, or it wouldn't have appeared on all 3 frames. I got up, I saw it appear in front of my eyes. I walked over to the front of the house where I could get a better view, and I watched it until it disappeared. I'm now going to walk you through each of the frames. This is the frame, the full frame before. You'll see there's nothing in the shot. There's nothing moving towards it, nothing. And I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. This is the close-up on the frame before the object appears. I'll brighten it up too. This is the first frame where the object appeared. I'm going to zoom in so you can see there's no fuzziness on the edges like there are for a meteor. I was really struck at the time about how intense the light was. It was like a round star-like object, but it was so incredibly bright for its size. It was moving slowly. It wasn't moving in a steady fashion. In frame 1, you can see there's a slight color change where it probably was moving at a different speed because I didn't see it changing color. It was a very intense gold brassy color. This was the second frame, and unfortunately it's mostly obscured by the tree trunk, but you can see where the light begins and where it ends. This was the third frame. There is just a hint of a disappearing color. This is the last frame, where there's nothing. Before we move to night 2, I just want you to look back at frame 1 where the light first appeared and remember this little jag in the light. It's going to come up again. On night 2, my camera picked it up in this location. I was filming with the Lumix. The Lumix was in the same spot, facing up towards the south. This was filmed on a Lumix G95 night lapse mode using a 20-second exposure. Did you see it? I'll slow it down. The light appeared in one frame only, so let's go through the same exercise we did before. Let's start by looking at the frame before the capture. And now we'll look at the capture itself. And now let's look at the full frame after. Again, when you think of this as a long exposure, you only have a few different options. It could be a light that flashed relatively quickly. It could be a light that was moving through the frame. The changes in brightness would, if it was a single light moving through the frame, it could have been brighter at the bottom as it was moving up through the frame, and then it decreased in brightness. Or it could have been brighter because it was moving slower and less bright after it picked up speed. The light I personally witnessed the night before was a single light, so this would track, and it didn't move at a constant speed, it was variable, so that also tracks. Let's zoom in a little and increase the contrast. I'd like to get a closer look at the light itself and how it changes. Remember the jag I pointed out in the light from the night before? What do you see here? I see another jag. There also seems to be where that jag is, a slight change in trajectory, but I'm not completely certain. What do you think? The first night when I witnessed the object, I considered that my home run. And that's regardless about what anybody thinks about the quality of the capture that I was able to get. But for me, it was validation. I saw it with my own eyes. It was a circular round object, kind of like a star, but was intensely bright. And I'm able to take what I witnessed and then compare it to this capture on the second night. I think this is very compelling footage. The jag in the middle and the likely change of trajectory based on what I witnessed on that first night in 2022 and on this second night. Were they all the same object? There is no way anybody could ever tell you that it was. And this means a lot to me personally, and I think the evidence, especially from the night 2 footage, this capture is pretty compelling. I can't wait to hear what you all think. What I've included in this film is a small sampling of the thousands of hours of footage I've taken since 2022. So much has changed since I started filming Project Up. I found a community of people who are searching for their own answers regarding a wide variety of experiences. My own search has been a mixed bag. I have not seen anything remotely like my experience in 2014. Other anomalies that I did capture on film, I feel I may one day identify, specifically the fast movers and the vapor trails. For the fast movers, I feel I just need to have a 4K camera in the right location at the right time. The 1080p Nest camera are masking the real culprit or culprits. I have a motion-activated game camera that also films in 1080p, And once it was triggered by a raccoon, and at the same time, it captured something that looked like two orbs flying side by side. I decided to set my GoPros outside next to each other, one filming in 4K and another filming in 1080p, and I found my answer in one evening. A bat flying on 1080p, because of the frame rate, appears as two wiffle balls flying side by side. I did go outside under the Nest Cam one night and start throwing ice cubes as fast as I could by the camera, hoping it would reveal a little bit about how the frame rate captures known objects. But honestly, it just looked like ice cubes being thrown past the camera, and my husband thought I had lost my mind. Also, the comparisons I showed of known animals help show that whatever is flying by the camera is extremely fast and compact. The other phenomenon that I hope to solve over time is the vapor trails. This was very strange, and I have seen other clips on the internet that remind me of these. One natural cause could be debris flying in the wind, but this was not supported by the Nest Cam footage. The green thing is another strange thing, which I have never captured anything else like it. I have no idea what it was. It's very random and strange, and I think it will always be unexplained. I will post any follow-up information about these phenomenon on this channel. The completion of this video marks the close of Phase 1 of Project Up. Phase 1 has consisted mostly of passive filming, which I will still do, but as life allows, I plan on spending a lot more time being outside at night observing. Nothing compares to being a first-hand witness of an event. I have purchased more equipment, so I am never going to be in the situation of witnessing something and not having a device to record it within reach. The new equipment includes a Psyonix Aurora Pro, which will allow me to have something small, ready to go, ready to film whatever I happen to view in the night sky. I also purchased an Akaso Color Night Vision binoculars, which film in 4K. But I saved my pennies and purchased my dream equipment, my Sony A7S III, which is a low light wonder. I can now video the night sky in 4K, and I purchased this with a Sony f1.8 14mm wide angle lens. And I captured my first fireball the first night I used it. I'm still working out the kinks. I hook it up to my Jackery, and it can film all night long. It's amazing. Of course, it means I have to go through footage of all night long, but that's my problem. I also purchased and this is going to sound very random, a used subwoofer. Yes, a subwoofer. And on the first day, I was testing a tip from someone I follow. And look what I captured during my test run. This was captured during the day. It was filmed using my GoPro 11 in the super slow-mo mode, which can film at 240 frames per second. It looked really strange just in regular mode, like here. But in order to get more details, I put it into a negative mode, which really flips the blacks and whites to opposite. It was drifting at the same speed as the clouds, but it looked very unusual, not like a cloud itself, but by something that was traveling with the cloud. And I'm going to get more into this, the purpose of the subwoofer, and more in my next film. My decision to post my experiences was a big decision for me. I am a very private person by nature, but I felt so isolated after my 2014 experience. I feel I must give back to the community that made me feel not only less alone, but welcome. Other people that are on their own journey looking to find out more information based on an experience they had, almost all of them have a weird twist when they start studying whatever phenomenon they're looking for. I don't know why this is. It makes me very, very, very uncomfortable. This is not the where I thought I'd be focusing any part of my life. It's impossible to ignore. And yet, I want nothing more than to ignore it. At the same time, it's very uncomfortable. As a community, we are really going to have to stop ignoring the odd side of the things that we have experienced, as if it's not odd enough to see something that you feel is physically there, but it shouldn't be. I think we all need to be a bit more brave if we're going to solve this. I don't know what discoveries await, but I will share them with you. Thank you for going on this journey with me. I will leave you with some parting footage of the Northern Lights.